There are thousands of different funds out there. The amount of choice, quite frankly, can feel just a little bit daunting when thinking about what exactly to invest in. So for this new series, I've enlisted the help of some of the big dogs. So each month, different industry experts will be joining me to explain in clear and simple terms what their area of expertise is actually all about. No jargon allowed. For inspiration, our direct investment service preferred list can be a great place to start. Compiled by our experts here at Stanley and designed to provide a helpful shortlist of fund options to choose from. But we want to take this one step further. So each month, we're going to be learning about a different fund sector, giving you the educational tools that you need to make informed investment decisions. We'll be taught about each of these investment areas, what factors to keep in mind, stock market considerations, the impact of current events, cause for concern, and everything in between. And who better to teach us about the fund industry than the actual experts themselves? But before I introduce this month's guests, if you're liking what you're hearing, please do go ahead and like, share, subscribe to our videos, engage with us in any way that you see fit. And if you're super keen to learn about a specific fund sector, please do let us know in the comments section. So today we'll be learning about the specialist category. This is a little bit of a unique one here today. We're going to be joined by Alex Araujo, fund manager for M&G's Global Listed Infrastructure Fund, alongside our very own CSD's chief analyst, Rob Morgan. Let's check it out. Rob, Alex, thank you both so much for joining me here today. Just got to say right off the bat here that 2/3 of this panel is Canadian, which means that automatically this is going to be the most polite video that you guys will be watching today, so you are welcome for that. Rob, I'm going to start with you here. Today we're talking about specialist funds. Can you just explain what that actually means and what some examples are?
Yeah, sure. So specialist fund will really focus in on a particular area of the market. So if we're talking about equities, that would be perhaps a sector-specific fund like technology or healthcare or mining, or something more thematic. These sorts of funds are aimed at doing something different in a portfolio, doing something different to your core funds. They're perhaps more at the periphery rather than at the core, but they're there to do a different kind of job. But just be aware when you're choosing this type of fund, just be aware of what your objectives are and the level of risk that you're happy with, so that you pick the right funds to fulfill those objectives and put something in your portfolio that's trying to plug into the themes that you're interested in.
So Alex, as mentioned, infrastructure funds are part of this category here. So as an infrastructure fund manager yourself, can you just explain a little bit about the infrastructure space? What's it all about?
Infrastructure is very specific, Erica. The underlying businesses are typically physical asset owners, and specifically assets that are critical to the functioning of societies and economies.
So can you give me some specific examples of infrastructure? This is like roads, wind turbines, right?
Yep, absolutely. There are many. We invest across a number of different underlying types of infrastructure assets and businesses, but as you say, one of the most important ones is electricity generation. And electricity generation needs to be done differently than it has been in the past, which gives rise to huge opportunities for growth in renewables and the infrastructure that's required for the energy transition, and more recently for energy security, given the difficulties that we're having, particularly here in Europe, as a result of the conflict in the Ukraine, in generating consistent, reliable electricity without Russian natural gas. We depend on infrastructure assets every day of our lives, from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed, and even while we're sleeping. And what's specifically interesting about those kinds of assets is the nature of the cash flows that come out of them, the returns that come out of them, the reliability of them. So if you think about how reliant we are on infrastructure assets, that's typically mirrored in the reliability of the returns of the businesses. So when you collect it all together and you diversify in various areas like utilities or transportation infrastructure or social infrastructure, which includes hospitals and things like that, or more excitingly, digital infrastructure, which is critical to the functioning of a more virtual economy, as we know, then you get characteristics that can be very beneficial for portfolios.
What are your thoughts on the political risks of investing in infrastructure? Are there any key sensitivities that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I think that's a key risk for investors in the sector, because these companies operate in a certain political framework. They're very strategically important, but there is the chance that a local national government can change the rules and move the goalposts in terms of the framework that they're operating in, and that can affect revenue. So that's a key risk, and we have seen that in the UK with legislation around sort of power prices and how that can be generated, and that's affected even the renewable energy generators that have that are available in the form of sort of investment trusts and things like that. So yeah, it's really, really important. The good news is that you can diversify that away a little bit by having lots of different geographical exposure and lots of different types of subsectors within the space.
Alex, your thoughts on the political considerations when investing in infrastructure? I'm sure you have a few.
Yeah, well, for the same reason these assets are so critical to society, governments do have to protect the consumers of the services from these assets from time to time. If electricity prices go through the roof, as they have done, the government, the regulator, needs to keep in mind the health of households. And they do it in different ways. Sometimes it's a bit of a cash grab from the generators, other times it's a subsidy, and as Rob highlights, it's different from region to region. We're very lucky because we are global investors and we can go and invest where we feel most welcome. But what it does mean is that you have to really get to know the regulatory structure, environment, and policies as discreetly as province or state level. So in our home province, we had a significant political change a few years back that prompted us to not see that as an investable region for regulated businesses. And if you're investing in a wind farm in Oklahoma, you have to know what the Oklahoma regulatory regime looks like.
Okay, this question is of personal interest to me. So under the infrastructure umbrella, you can invest in things like renewable energy. So would people be able to invest in infrastructure funds in order to combat climate change?
Climate change mitigation is first and foremost an infrastructure-based solution.
Fascinating.
And it seems a bit incongruous, but we need to build things in order to save the planet. Whether it's wind farms, solar farms, the transmission networks to connect it all together. If we're going to drive electric cars and we're going to heat our homes with electricity rather than gas, we need to build infrastructure locally to avoid substations blowing up when we all park our Teslas and plug them in at the end of the day. So it's an infrastructure solution, and you might be interested to hear that 50% of the investment that's made in renewable energy deployments is actually done by the utility sector.
Fascinating stuff. Alex, Rob, thank you both so much for all your insights here today, and thank you to all of you for watching.